concentrated what? On that particular act. We need to know why. These things are very important. Information is so powerful. What you know determines how far you are going to go. Relationship. We cannot talk about sex without having a relationship. Whether you're having sex with an object, with an animal, with a boy, there must be a relationship, there must be a communion. That is when we talk about sex. So, we are looking at the way is a behavior. Okay? There is an emotion. I try to highlight some important things there. Emotional and sexual association between two people. Okay, now, my own focus, what I want to discuss, time is not our friend, is sexual health. How healthy are we sexually? For you to be able to mature, for you to be able to go through the phase of your youthful era before you get married, you need a perfect sexual health. If your sexual health is good, you can have a wonderful marital bliss. But when you distort it now, there will be difficulty. You are going to see that. So, what is sexual health? This is WHO, okay? We will talk about international and below here, okay? It's the same definition. The state of physical, emotional, mental, social. You see, there are a lot of components. Okay? Physical, the body. Emotions, when you're emotional. Okay? Mental. Social well-being in relation to sexuality. It is not just the mere absence of disease, dysfunction, or infirmity. So what are we trying to say? If an individual does not have gonorrhea, but the person has issues with masturbation, that person has issues. The sexual health is distorted. If a man cannot maintain one particular friend as a female, the sexual health is distorted. If an individual has issues with pornography, is buying another one, is getting another one, the sexual health is what? Distorted. That is why we are having this particular seminar to know how we are going to heal our sexual health. Sexuality in itself is a component, a lot of things again. These things are not simple as I'm telling you. Okay? A central aspect of human being through life encompasses sex, gender identity. Some people are females and they say they are male. You see that a lot. It's not very common here in this country. Some people try to put on lipstick and change everything. They want to put on breasts. They want to be female. So, gender identities, role, sexual orientation. My Florence did justice to that. Erotism, pleasure, intimacy, and reproduction. All this is still pointing a finger to sexuality. Now, these are all the experiences. We are talking about sexuality, thoughts, fantasies, desires, beliefs, attitudes. See, there are so many. Trying to say that the sexual life determines a lot about who you are. So, if your sexuality is distorted, it might affect even how you behave in your workplace, how you relate with other people. So it's not just about the act of sex. Now, the church, I will rush through this. This is not a sermon, but it is good for us to know that the church recognizes also sexuality very well. And they said a few things in their books. You can see a lot of this in the Bible. If you keep reading, you keep educating yourself. Now, he said, sexual pleasure is morally disordered when sought for itself, isolated from its procreative and unity purposes. What does this mean? Anytime one is having sex, there is no marital union, that individual is moving away from the sole purpose of sex. Because in sexual intercourse, we try to mimic God. That is when we try to create. So, it is the only act. God is is the ownership. When you talk about creation, you must mention God. So now, when two human beings come together to have sex, they are trying to create again. So, That is a particular moment where we meet God in creation. It is not just a simple act. I tell you. Now, he said the expression of love between husband and the wife is an elevated form of human activity, joining at the doors, husband and wife, in complete mutual self-giving and opening the relationship to a new life. There is a self-giving. Husband and wife coming together to have sex, there is a self-giving. Now, if a boy and a girl is trying to have sex, they are trying to give themselves, but they have not made any vow. So there is no self to give. So there is an aberration already. Okay. Because of time, I might not read most of these things. Okay. Now, conjugal love aims at deeply personal unity. A unity that is beyond union in one flesh. Beyond union in one flesh, it leads to forming one heart and soul. These are strong terminologies. He said, forming one heart and soul. Since marriage bond is to be a sign of love between God and humanity. Influences of sexuality. If you see, almost everything in life influences sexuality. Almost everything. So it's not as simple as just, if you just live with the girl and it stops there. No. There are so many things there, psychological, and name it. Sexual rights. Okay? Sexual rights. These are some of the rights that must be fulfilled before you can say that your sexual health is good. We might not be able to go through that because I want to go into the main purpose of this. These are all overviews. Okay? These are the classifications of some of the problems we can have in sexual health. There are so many. I will pick few. Under that, you can see violence and victimization. These are some of the things that can distort the sexual health of an individual. You can see the STI, infections. They can distort the sexual health of an individual. Now, sex is heroin, if not stronger. I don't know whether you have heard of strong, all this cocaine, heroin, marijuana. If you know people that are on drugs, they will tell you that when they take it, they feel on top of the world. So we're talking about an act that when you are performing, it gives you this particular sense, if not stronger. Okay? Now, let's all look at sex and medicine. What is the relationship between sex and medicine? Now, if you look at the projection there, you can see your brain standing in the middle. The brain, otherwise you can call it your mind, is the citadel where you have the sexual thoughts conjured. Now, there are hormones. Hormones are substances that the body secretes. They are released. It's in everybody. So when they are released, during sex, there are some special hormones that are released. Those are the hormones that cause you to have those feelings. Those are the hormones that will make you to want to have the sex more. Those are the hormones that will keep reminding you of the past effect of that act. Those are the hormones that want you to keep on going and going. Our knowledge of how our brain works when it comes to sex will help us to know how to avoid that particular occasion. Remember, what you know depends on where you are going to. So, we see one of them is oxytocin, dopamine. Don't bother about those names. But the same oxytocin is released when a mother is breastfeeding the baby. It makes the breast milk to run. Now, this same hormone is released during sex. So, the vital issue when we talk about sex in medicine is the issue of bonding. So, this lecture will tell you how this bonding effects happens in you as an individual each time you have sex with woman A and move from woman A to woman B, there is what we call a circuit in your brain. It keeps going on. And this brain, it will get to woman A, it wants to bond, you have moved to woman B, the brain is confused again. As it's getting to woman B, you have moved to woman C, at a point there is confusion. So when the individual happen to get married again, there is a confusion because we keep on trying to bond. But those repetitive, distorted circuits becomes a problem. There is so much power in information. When we know why. And when we know why, we know what to do. Okay, good. There is one of my favorite priests called Fadibuaja. He asked us when we were students, he said, if you come where we have books, this one reading marketing strategy, this one reading leadership, this one reading sex and the beauties of sex. He said, among these books, which one are you going to pick? I want you to be factual. You see sex and the beauty of sex, leadership and this one, that one, all those ones. If nobody is looking at you, which one are you going to pick? This is a very important question. No, I'm asking, which one are you going to pick? Why? Our ability to answer why to that, why must I go to the one written sex, is to tell you that you are a sexual being. Your ability to accept this simple analogy will help you in developing ways to make yourself sexually strong before you get into marriage. If you see a beautiful girl and you are shaking and looking at her and removing your eyes and you think, oh God, you speak in tongues. No. What is happening to you is you just recognize that this girl is fine. You are a sexual being. You just liked her. You have not seen at that particular point. So our ability to understand how our brain works will help us in knowing what to do when this situation presents itself. Now, still on sex and medicine, just May 11, 2013, this is a recent study done on sex and medicine, how the brain is being rewired during the act of premarital sex. There is a rewiring. Your brain is not the normal way it's supposed to function. There are some distortion. And it's still the issue of this bonding. Now, he said, breaking up relationships becomes very difficult. Some people, you are in sexual, intimacy with a lady, you want to break her off. You remember the gymnastics. It's difficult to break up. Then some will finally break up. They will not even allow you to allow. They will just enter another one. So you see lots of breaking of these circuits, and the brain keeps wondering, I supposed to have bonded with this one. Okay, all right, let's see how it goes. Before the brain resets, another one comes up. So before you know, you see an individual that has a distorted mind. When the person enters marriage, he or she feels that at this point, I will become a saint. It is not that simple. Because the brain will keep on reminding you about those circuits, that you need to continue on those pleasurable experiences. We are talking about medicine now. So now, the same thing happens with the pornography. When you are viewing a pornography, some of these hormones are released. I've mentioned 2 hormones, sex, oxytocin, and dopamine. They are released to help you. Number one of the functions of dopamine is that it dissociates you from the guilt thought that this is wrong, and gives you a pleasurable experience, and it makes you to remember that you need to continue viewing this for you to continue having that experience. Remember what I said about sex? I said it gives you an insight as if you are smoking heroin. You feel so good. So you can see how these things work. When you are viewing, the brain is reminding you hormones are released, you want to go back again and again and again. Before you know, it becomes a habit. Now, some of the researchers, still recent 2013, is advocating for couples. He said, when you are sleeping with your wife, it is very good that you look at her or she looks at you, that the same effect that happens during pornography can be reproduced in itself during that act. So that each time you are on your own and you are thinking about sex, your brain will think about your wife. White people are researching every moment. So we have mentioned the issue of the neurochemical effect. Now, Florence is not here. She mentioned it. Couples, is not only sex they normally have. That's what young people think. That once you're married, marriage is all about sex. It's not true. Children's school fees will come. You think about rent, you build house, you go to work, okay? So it's not only about sex, but these are some of the thought processes that will make us to, it's all about sex. No. Now, we said that sex is a powerful brain stimulant. Sometimes, it stimulates the brain. It makes the brain very active. The brain wants to think about it. There is a crave for some more. That is why after the decision taking, you hit you bang the table. I'm not going to go back to this thing again. Before you say Jack Robinson, you are back to it again. Why? The issue of neurochemical release and stimulation. I mentioned it before. Loss of dopamine during sex, heroin on the brain, the internal reward system, and so on and so forth. He said, oxytocin helps us to forget what is painful. It helps in bonding, release during sex, and so on. Now, what can be done, really? Now, this bonding effect in premarital state, it is a problem. But in marriage, it is wonderful. You need it because it narrows in terms of selection of a partner. Okay? It narrows. So it helps in faithfulness. It is great in marriage. It's terrible in dating because you lose your objectivity. If you are having sex over and over again with a lady that is supposed to be your date, it is difficult for you to be very objective in terms of knowing the true values you want from her or she from you. Because Sigmund Freud, a very good psychologist, will say that sex is at the center of every human being. That everything we do, Florence was trying to explain that. You see that in media. Everything points a finger towards sex. Almost everything. And you keep asking yourself why. Because they know that the brain wants those dopamine to be released. And from looking at the woman, like she said, you will look at the wristwatch. But the question is that right? We've mentioned this impaired bonding during premarital. Okay, we've mentioned repeated cycle. Okay, I've explained all this. Okay, I've explained all this. It's a neuropsychologist, Dr. Tim Jennings, that actually put up this thing. The same addiction principle goes in pornography. Okay, the same bonding, the eyes and so on. Okay, then sexual transmitted diseases. The fear of sexual transmitted diseases is the beginning of wisdom. But I don't want to equal that with God. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. But your knowledge of sexual transmitted diseases is so important that you're supposed to know. I'll be very careful. It will be so sad that a few minutes act will lead you into several years agony. We see several women in the clinics, they come to both tubes are blocked. They're having issues with having babies. Some of them will tell you, please don't tell my husband. Yes, that is, you call it right in medicine. And you are not going to do that. Or they keep on praying. You know, this issue of prayer is very good, but sometimes it is good we run away from some of these things. So, sexual transmitted infections, there are so many of them. Gonorrhea infection, syphilis, okay? There are other ones you have not heard of. Chlamydia infection, bacterial vaginosis, HIV infection, hepatitis B infection. You can name but a few, there are so many. Act. Sexual act will lead you to that. Premarital sexual act will lead you to that. Unfaithfulness will lead you to that. Difficulty with staying with one woman will lead you to that. So, someone will ask, what is now the gain? If after a few minutes of pleasure, you spend the rest of your life mourning, it's a food for thought. Now, what are some of the things you need to know? I need to highlight this in terms of the cardinal signs. Oh, so, come on. Cardinal signs. You see, some women will experience some vaginal discharge, malodoriferous. It has a terrible smell. Okay? It might be copious. It might be too. You discover that you are changing pads over and over. You're wondering what's happening. But the terrible thing is that some of these infections will not give you any sign. The person becomes a potential carrier. So that means any guy, you know, she becomes a time bomb. I remember then when we are doing house job, there is this cartoon they put there. They said that a person that had this infection is like someone loaded with gun. Oh, goodness. A gun. If you see someone with gun, you cannot say whether this gun is loaded or whether it's not loaded. But a click on the trigger will answer that question. What are we saying? A potential carrier, you don't know. So, I don't have time. Deep disparity, painful sex, you know, very painful. During marriage, it becomes a problem in the marriage. You know, painful sex. Sex is supposed to be something that is enjoyable, but STI can lead you to have pains. The woman is crying during sex. That is some of the things they can do. Okay, for the males, you see something like pus coming out from your penis. That is significant. You need to see a doctor. If you are urinating and it is paining you, please do not hide it. You need to see a doctor. Okay? Then the late effect is infertility, tubal blockage. There is no, you know, when you want to have children, it becomes a problem. Promiscuity. We know what promiscuity is. I've mentioned that. Having a lot of, you know, infidelity from this one person to the other person. The same issue of breaking circuits, I've mentioned that. Now, there will be difficulty with bonding. Man fantasizes about other women while making love to the wife. It's a terrible thing. These are some of the things what promiscuity can do to marriages. Right now, you might think there is no problem. But the man, while making love with the wife, will be thinking about that girl, the way the girl was doing gymnastics. Then, the other one is that he's trying to guilt the wife into performing sexually in ways she's not comfortable with. She wants the wife to do as that person did in pornographic movies, and this woman cannot satisfy him anymore. There is problem in the marriage. He does not even know what satisfies him. He keeps complaining. Or she keeps complaining in the marriage. Before you know it, they have to seek for the services of Our Lady. Ignoring his wife altogether as he masturbates in pathetic attempt to recreate his lustful fantasies. So maybe if we try to, the wife should do this. If she's not, she just ignores her. She has another alternative. These things are serious. Child sexual abuse. I might not be able to go through all this. These are some of the behavioral problems. Depression, anxiety, guilt, sexual dysfunction. You know. You see the child trying to do some of the things. I'm trying to go through the list of the things given to me, but it's difficult to do that. Okay. So, well, victims of rape can be involved in physically abused relationship as adults. Some of the people that are abused when they were kids can actually end up being victims of rape or enter into a relationship where the same abuse continues. Some of them will just enter into, high level of anxiety can lead to self-destructive behaviors. Alcoholism, drug abuse, etc. He's looking for happiness where there is none. Okay. The effects of rape, you can see one of them very serious is what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. On a final note, evidence has shown that couples who wait until marriage report more satisfying sex lives than those who do not wait. I'm giving these are words written on the marble. Sorry. Okay. Sex is so important to bonding of couples. If you listen to the exchange of vows, they said to have and to hold. To have and to hold till death do us part. Powerful word. Couples who marry as virgins have a much lower divorce rate than those who wait. Couples who marry as virgins have a much lower divorce rate than those who, this is a typographical error. Those who engage in those promiscuity and what have you, they have issues. So we are still advertising in our world today about what we call vigo intacta for women. Virginity is still very good. We still preach it, as even as a doctor, it is still very good. In fact, if you come to the hospital, we want to examine you, we ask you that question. If you say yes, there are alternatives. If you have issues with your reproductive tract, it is respected. It is wonderful. If you have broken it, you can still have what we call a secondary virginity by making what? A very good resolution. It is easier for couples whose sexual experience has been with each other to experience a natural bonding. They are not going to struggle. Now, promiscuous ones, we need to be more intentional and deliberate in their approach to sex in order to bond. It's not easy. See, let me tell you straight away. If you have issues with promiscuity, please say no today and know that there are issues. You really need to work on a lot of things for you to get back and retrain your brain to start thinking in a natural manner. Conclusion. The devil. Medical doctors recognize devil. The church says that if you say that there is no devil and that there is no God, that such individual will be declared or should be given an anathema seat. That is, that person should be cast away from the church because it's a serious offense. So we are saying that the devil attacks sexuality a lot. Why? Why? Everything is all about sex. It's a problem, creating issues. Interference with bonding is simply the issue. Sexual things distorts this circuit. Get hold of your mind. Romans 12:1. They are saying I should stop. Change the way you think. Remember, your soul is at stake. You remove materials and bridges that will lead you back to the same habit. See a doctor. See Florence. See a priest. See a counsel if need be. Above all, don't die with your problem. Thank you very much.
If I don't have sex before marriage, how do I know I am sexually compatible with the man without going to bed with him? What if he is not sexually experienced? Or rather, what happens when we get married and he cannot satisfy me sexually? What do I do in this situation, knowing fully well that I cannot stay in a relationship where my sexual need is not met? Somebody please. Somebody please. So, Madam Flo, the babe says she likes sex. How will she know she's sexually compatible with the man if she does not have sex before marriage? And she cannot stay in a marriage where her sexual needs are not met.
Amen.
Okay, I think the answer is in the question. If the lady said she's sexually active already, in fact, such a lady does not even need a relationship yet. I think she needs to heal. She needs to get over it. And talking about being sexually active, it's a myth. We call them lies or myths. People said, we need to engage in sex while dating so we can understand our sexual compatibility. Now, doctor said a lot about it. The truth is, sex can be learned. It's even good when when you have an experience before now, you have an expectation. And sometimes you feel your expectations are not being met. That's why we talk against pornography. That you expect your spouse to begin to mourn, to begin to talk, or say stupid things like the person you saw, not knowing that those ones are on drugs. They were paid to do what they are doing. So I think I got married a virgin, and it can be learned. There is no two ways about it. Besides, yes, I'm proud of it. Besides, there are a lot of things that we should be compatible with. There is what we call educational compatibility. There is intellectual compatibility. You know, my mentor once told me that when I was going to get married, I took my fiancé to my library. You need to read this book. Do you understand? There is social compatibility. And when people talk about sexual compatibility, I am wondering what happens to all other compatibility. So for that lady, I think you need help. You need us to talk. You need to remove yourself or remove all those what is it called? Perception. You need to drop them. Trust me. If you get married a virgin, the two of you will do it together. There is no two ways about it. The question is, did God command it? The scriptures cannot be broken. If at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is to fulfill God's word, because it was God that commanded, it's not as if our body cannot have it. We long for it, but because God commands it and we know the biological effects and all that, that's why we're waiting. So, sweetheart, if you're here, you can see us. In case I leave after that, you can see the doctor after that. Trust me, it won't be boring. You will enjoy yourself. Read books. Improve yourself before you have sex.
And to add to that, how many married people do we have here? When you got married, your first sexual experience, did you put the penis in your mouth? Or in your ear? So even animals, dogs, everything, they are not as wise as we as human beings. When it's time to mate, they know the right place to insert whatever. So my dear, like she said, you learn. You may get married to someone, you people are not on the same sexual whatever. That is where the bonding and the intimacy comes. You teach your partner the styles you like. Your partner tells you his or her sexual preferences. Stage by stage like that, you will grow. And I tell you, when you learn those things together, it builds the fun. You are coming knowing that, hey, this one is not like maybe, will I say wilder than me or whatever, but we are learning it together. If tomorrow you bite her ear and like that's not a sweet zone for her, she tells you, it's building your communication. So it's not just the sexual act that is growing, you grow in everything. So my dear, so long as when you get married, you are not going to take the penis and put it in your ear. Relax. When you get married, enough time to learn the act. Thank you.
Also, to add to what she just said, the last time I checked, when I was getting married, you know, we did almost 12 weeks of marriage course. So when my husband told me about it, because I wasn't brought up in a Catholic background, I'm like, what are they telling us there? But if you listen to the ingredients of marriage, or if you're in marriage or you're married, one of the ingredients of marriage is patience. Now, there's no way you can just get married and just develop patience, because two of you already grew up from different backgrounds. You already had different experiences. All it takes in marriage is just patience. You need to be very, very patient. If you're patient with your man, you people will get there. All right? Okay.
So the next question we'll have here, people are already bringing their questions. He says, I started having sex at a very tender age. I was abused by ladies who were older than me while growing up. Now, the problem is that I can't keep a relationship with a lady. I think this was written by a guy. Please, sorry, I have to. I always get tired of them once we make love, and this makes me have multiple partners so that I can satisfy my sexual urges as well as not get bored. What is your opinion about this? How do I break free from this habit? Mrs. Obi, we're inviting you to answer this question for us. A round of applause for her.
Praise God. Praise our living God. He said that he cannot keep a relationship because he was abused as a young person. And when we gather to talk about sex, and we talk about premarital sex, me personally, I hate premarital sex. And when I see a young person practicing premarital sex, the only thing I decide, the only thing I feel is out of ignorance. Because if you actually know the implication of premarital sex, my sister, my brother, you will abstain. Because it is just like, premarital sex is like a can of worm. You understand? When you get a tin of tomatoes and you see it, the outside is so beautiful. But when you open it, I'm not talking about a tin of, I'm talking about a can, well sealed and well packaged. When you look at it, it's so beautiful, it's so appealing. But please open it, it's just can